believe it's only Tuesday.
Do you have any like red and black beetles on your house in this when it's nice and warm like this?
No, I don't get them. I don't know if it's because our house is dark blue, but we've never really gotten them. Those box elders you're talking about, the ones with the little
Maybe they might be. Yeah, box elder bugs.
like longer with a little orange like stripe or whatever, V or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, our neighbors, the Otrembas, 2 blocks over on Main Street, get them like all over the side of their house too.
Yeah.
That was when their house was lighter. I don't know if it happens anymore because they painted their house a couple of years ago too.
Yeah, it's happening on the south side
Yeah,
where with all the sun and the warmth right
yeah,
now. Yeah.
yeah. And they have, well, they're only a block away from you, and they have a box elder tree in their yard. So I wonder if it's just because they,
Oh.
I don't know. We've never had them here. We get stink bugs like crazy right now. I hate those suckers.
Hmm. You don't have those.
They're like big and wide, and they smell like cilantro when you squish them, and I hate cilantro. So there's just like insult to injury.
Yeah. Well, looks like it's going to be a short, small group tonight.
Just the one.
So, good evening, Isabel. How are you?
Hi, good. What about you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Mhm.
It looks like it's just going to be, well, for right now, it's just the three of us. So, we can. Did you get the notification that your computer's going to shut down?
Yes. Every day at 7.
I don't know why that is. Isabel, is there anything that you'd like to talk about tonight? Since, well, it's you and now Sarah's coming in. So, Sarah, letterer. Evening, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
How do you
Good.
how do you pronounce your last name?
Letterer.
Letterer? Okay.
Okay. We were kind of. I would just say we. I was kind of slaughtering it before you came in, so I just was.
No,
That's why she asked.
no, when right before you said, I was like, how do you say that name?
Yep.
The thought was there.
Sure.
Um, well, it's looking like it's going to be a small group with us tonight. So I guess one of the things, as always, kind of starting off, one, thank you for coming. I appreciate it and giving up your time tonight, Sarah as well, and Isabel. So, is there any things that you guys would like to talk about tonight specifically or kind of learn from information about? I can always talk. I just want to know what you guys need to, what you need to know first, or what's most important to you.
Sure. I didn't have any questions specifically right now.
Okay. Isabel, anything with you?
No.
Okay. Um, well then, I can talk a little bit about I can talk a little bit about things for tonight as far as kind of we're getting into our new unit on actually starting on Thursday on ecology, and we're excited about that. We're also starting with our first kind of big project of the year um, with our eco bottle project. So the pop bottles are going to be put to good use. We're going to be conducting some experiments with them, kind of putting into practice some of the things that we've been learning about in our nature of science unit that we're doing our tests on. And so we're excited about that. I love this project. Sarah's never done this before, so it's going to be curious to see her reactions of things and to see what she thinks of it. But I've loved this. A lot of students have actually really liked this too in the past. I heard one student say too that, oh, my friend said this is one of the best things that they've ever done. And so I'm excited about kind of getting into this stuff and kind of putting into application the stuff that we're teaching and practicing. And I'll be sending out lots of pictures and stuff once we get them all set up. We're gonna have, well, there's 110 kids, so I don't know. There's gonna be like I don't know, 4 to a group and 2 bottles. So what is that? There's a lot of math now. All of a sudden, it's like 25 groups and 2 bottles. So there's a lot of bottles that are going to be eventually stuck in the windows, and growing some radish seeds and some radish plants that we've used in the past couple of years because they grow really quickly. And the kids are going to be creating their own experiment and then creating like a control group, an experimental group, and recording some data and graphing it. And so kind of really, like I said, putting into application the stuff that we're doing. And I love it. And then we kind of use those bottles to help kind of tie in some of our concepts to ecology that we're going to be starting here then. I'm actually kind of excited too with the nice weather. Hopefully it stays here that we can get outside and do some things, get out to the nature center and walk around and stuff like that, and get them introduced to the nature center. It's going to be great. So the ecology unit is a really nice kind of great unit to start us off with for the year because it's not super difficult in content wise, but it does start to set the stage. It kind of gets them prepared for like, what does the day look like? How do we do things? The idea of taking notes and being a student. And that kind of gets us into the idea of study skills, right? One of the things I'm seeing right now is that there's a lot of cell phone use with students. And it's something that I do think and I don't know where we're at in this process, but it's definitely a distraction for students. I have been kind of looking anecdotally with students and I think their cell phone use and their grades in not only in my class, but in all their classes. And I'm seeing some correlation between like their cell phone use and their lower grades in class or classes. And I know it's only 2 of you, and I know that might not necessarily pertain to your son or daughter and things like that. But, it's definitely something that, Sarah and I are kind of constantly struggling with and looking at. And I know other teachers are as well. This is not just an us thing. I think this is I think it's a school education societal thing that we're having to deal with in this process. And it's also trying to figure out, as we're coming out of this pandemic, I think students are still trying to figure out and remember what it's like to be a student. And so how to have those gentle conversations and reminders of students to like, what are the expectations moving forward and stuff. And those are hard conversations to have at times because I kind of feel like between cell phone and masks, and I don't know about Sarah, but I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. Like it's a broken record and I'm saying the same thing about 20 times in an hour of put the cell phones away and pull the mask up. So we'll have to just kind of see how that goes moving forward with stuff, but that's kind of a little kind of anecdotal thing. So, but I'm excited for ecology. We're kind of getting into some kind of the way that I like to do school in a way is that we're going to be providing a lot of choices for students. And that's one of the things that I kind of sent you guys today in that last email I sent you, is that I wanted you guys to see how we're doing things and what we're doing and kind of the grading rubric and things like that. Being transparent in that process, I think, is an important thing for everybody to understand what are the expectations moving forward. And so the big thing kind of as we change into this ecology unit is, and I'm hoping to do this for every unit moving forward for the rest of the year, is that students can have a choice as far as how they want to do their summative assessments. They can either continue to do the test, the end of the unit test that we've been doing, or they can choose to do a project. And the project even has choices even inside of that, which there's like a lot of things now, like a lot of choices that kids have as far as how they want to show and demonstrate their learning. I love doing projects because I think it's a great way for students to take ownership of their learning, find some talents and passions, find some interests that they might want to learn more about or that they're already excited about, and then show that. I've never really gotten super excited about grading a test, but I've gotten like totally geeked out about grading a project. Like to the point where I've emailed the superintendent and the principal and said, check this out. Like, this is amazing. And I've never gotten that geeked out about grading a test. It's great that when students not only do kind of what you expect them to be doing, but also too when they overachieve or maybe they're doing better than you kind of thought they might. But you still never just get super excited about it. But like I've just been blown away by kids and what they're doing and what they can make when you give them that freedom and flexibility for what that can look like. And that's where I get super excited. And I'll be excited for Sarah to see kind of some of these things too that I've been doing now for a couple of years now. I've been doing this for about 5 years, where I've been able to kind of look at what students can make and things like that. And I still actually always think of actually Sarah's son Gabe, and the first thing that he made for me when he was a freshman. And super creative, very interesting idea. Used pop bottles to make a collage talking about ecology, and that was his first project that he made. So again, when you allow kids to have that freedom and flexibility and that creativity, they can really step up and do some amazing things with it. So so that's one of the things we've been kind of introducing today after the quiz with the students, is trying to okay, this is how we're going to do things, and this is what we're going to do. I will be asking students, I'll be sending out a Google form to them probably Thursday, maybe Friday, to just say this is what I'd like to do for the ecology unit. I'm either going to do the projects or I'm going to do the test. And I'd like for them to commit to what they're going to do for that, and not then flip-flop and change. And I've done that because I've had kids flip-flop and change. And it tends not to go well mid-unit and things like that, when all of a sudden they're like, I'm so far behind on the project, so I'm just going to do the test. But then they haven't been really studying for the material for the test, and therefore they fail the test, and it doesn't go well. Or they realize they didn't study for the test, and I want to make a project, and it's not very good. And so it's kind of let's stick with one thing and focus on that. And I love doing projects because it allows each student to be challenged equally, where I think tests don't do that. And to write a really good test is a difficult thing. And most teachers, including myself in this process, really don't make amazingly good tests. And so that's a really difficult thing to make a test that can cater to everybody's needs, where I think the project really does a great job with that. So I'm excited about being able to look at each kid and challenge them appropriately.
And I think too, from a special ed standpoint, being able for kids to express their learning in different ways is a big deal, because tests are really hard, not just on special ed, but a lot of kids have a lot of test anxiety. And when they're able to pick something that they are interested in, not only will they learn more because they want to learn more, but they'll do better on it too. So I'm super excited to see how kids do on projects, and if it's something that they keep doing, because it's a really good way for them to learn, and also to show their knowledge in a way that's not traditional, which a lot of kids just don't do well on tests. That's just how it is. So it's going to be fun, I think.
So I don't know if you guys want me to go through all of the the nuts and bolts and the dotting of the I's and the crossing the T's of what it's going to look like. As I told the students today, and I reiterated again, is that projects can be literally anything. And I know that sounds cliche-ish, but I've never turned a student down for a project idea. And I've had kids make a cake that had a design on it, and we talked about what the design meant and what they learned from it, and then we ate the cake. I've had students make poetry. I've had students make rap. I've had students make music. I've had students make movies, stop motion, Lego animation. I've had students make a lot of PowerPoints. I get a lot of PowerPoints. I've had students write children's books. I've had students write stories. I've had board games being made. So again, the creativity is huge. And actually one of my favorites, quite honestly, one of my favorite things is to sit down with a kid and talk, and not even make anything. That they're just telling me what they've learned, and I can ask them questions and really kind of gauge the depth of their understanding, and we can just have a conversation, and that's the project. And so it doesn't have to be anything great. It just shows what they've learned, and it's real and it's authentic. And that's the part that I enjoy the most, is the fact that they've taken a real ownership over something. So and the rubric that I've written, I think, is pretty general enough that I can actually grade almost anything with it. It's looking at concepts. Do they understand concepts? Are they using the vocabulary words correctly? Are they creating there's an active verb in each of the different standards that we're doing, and are they meeting the active verb? And then also looking at creativity and originality. One of the things because I get a lot of PowerPoints, because it seems to be the easiest thing, is I always tell the students like you should be creating like the best thing you've ever done. And if it's not the best thing you've ever done, don't turn it in. Just try to wow your socks off. And I always tell like you're so proud you want to show your grandma it, and your grandma's going to be amazed. Or you're going to show back your 3rd grade teacher and they're just going to be blown away by it because it's the best thing you've ever done. And when we kind of put it in those reference points, the best thing you've ever done, and I know that sounds like very inaccurate, lofty, ambiguous goals, but I would rather say the best thing you've ever done than just create something that's average. And that's something that I get a lot of average. And how do you then try to motivate that student to go above and beyond being average? And that's one of the things I like about doing the projects, is because you can try to tap into that idea of passions and talents to try to get the best from them. Which I think when students start thinking about creating the best thing they've ever done, that can also carry over to when they want to do the test. Is that means I have to do the best job that I ever can. And while, and this is just an anecdotal thing that I think that Sarah would agree with, even though we haven't really talked about it, is that one of the things that I'm kind of hearing with students now is that, well, because we can take the test multiple times, why should I study for the first one? Which then lends itself to this idea of being average or mediocre, or right, that I don't want to put forth my effort because I can do it again. And so, how do we try to get students to really put forth their best, and being the best at the first time? And that knowing that there's always room to become better, that this might be the best thing that you've ever done, but I'll find ways that it can be better, and I'll let you know of those things, and then you can make those changes and improvements, and then it becomes better. Which is one of the reasons why I really like doing projects, because I kind of call it grade inflation. Is that I can take a kid when they think that this is their best thing that they've ever done, and I can give them feedback, and now this becomes the best thing they've ever done, but now that becomes the baseline for the next project, which means now this is where they start and they end here, and then I can take them even a little bit farther, but that becomes in the baseline for the next project. So the continuation of what is being expected and what will stand as being passable continues to increase and grow, which I think continues to challenge every student. And again, that's one of the things I love about doing the projects, is because we can challenge every student in that process. It's not just here's this test, which for some is going to be way too easy, and for some it's just way too hard. So that's why I kind of like doing this stuff. So I'm excited about kind of getting into this and seeing where it's going to go. I'm kind of excited about getting back into kind of the meat and the potatoes of some content again. While I enjoy the nature of science, I'm excited about kind of getting into, teaching some actual science again and biology again, because it's kind of the stuff that I know I get nerdy on, and I know Sarah does as well. So it's
And this is his favorite unit, if you can't tell already. He's very excited about this.
Actually, my favorite unit is the DNA and protein synthesis unit. That's probably my favorite unit. And then genetics are probably my 2 favorite units to teach, and for very different reasons, because the DNA unit is very technical and it's very difficult. And so for me, the challenge is, how do I take something that's very difficult and bring it down to a manageable level? And that's one of the things I love about it, is trying to take something that is I think what the hard things about science, and the tough things about teaching science, is try to take things that you can't see and make it visual. And how do you take that? Because we're all kind of more visual learners, right? And so that's one of the things I love about teaching DNA, is because it's so technical and it's so precise, and there's so many intricate details into it, and how they all connect. A connects into B, and B into C, and C into D, and D into E, and I love it. And for that reason, but genetics I love because they just get to learn so much about themselves, and they start going, oh my gosh, like Like, that makes sense. Like, why do I look like my brother or my sister? Or why do I look like my mom or not my dad? You know, and things like that. And so there's a lot of like self-discovery in genetics, which is one of the reasons why I love it. That, and also too, just because it's like totally changing all the time with, you know, cloning and stem cells, which, you know, is still continuing to change at a tremendous pace, and we're not even hearing a lot about them. So yeah, I get a little nerdy on these things. Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, really, that's kind of the nuts and bolts. I mean, I can get into a lot more technical details of things with the projects and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys want that tonight. And Lisa, thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate you jumping in here. If there's any questions that you have, just let us know. So far, Sarah and Isabel have not had any questions. So
I've got a question. So if you're interested in the project where they just sit down and talk with you, what would they work on in class for that sort of a project? So I noticed for the tests, they would do like worksheets during class time. And if they're a project, they'd work on the projects. But what if they choose to do the one where they're talking? Would the worksheets be kind of what they'd be working on?
Well, so I mean, I think anytime when we start thinking about a project, I want them to be thinking about relating the content that we're teaching them into a topic that they're interested in about. So
Okay.
that could be something like global warming, deforestation, acid rain, invasive species, things like that. And then how do they take that topic that they're finding some interest in and relate then our standards or learning standards into that topic. So one of the things that they're going to be doing then when students are doing a project kind of on a daily basis is one of the things I've created in this project document is that I do want them to verbalize what are their daily goals. So like today my goal is to, and it could be just still research, like it's to find out more about acid rain and its effects upon an ecosystem. And that could be what they're doing for, 40 minutes, right?
Okay.
But it's something that then becomes measurable and accountable. And that I think is a huge thing. The other thing that it tends to do too is it takes this big project. Where's my screen? It takes this big project and it chunks it out into smaller parts that all of a sudden, when you start putting the smaller parts together, it creates this big thing. When you tell a kid you're going to do this project, like until they get good at doing them, they don't know what that means. And so how do you help them set realistic goals for like, okay, you've got to finish your research by this date. And we kind of work backwards from the due date. So, if your due date is the 3rd of November, okay, well, you're going to need to make some edits upon your final copy. So that's going to do probably on the 1st or the 2nd, which means you then need to have an outline so that you can write your final version. Well, that's going to have to be done on the 30th or the 29th of October, right? So we can kind of set these little goals. Your research is going to take a ton of time for your topics. And so that's going to be the majority of things. So then what do we want them to be doing on a daily basis then? So they have, like I said, a measurable and obtainable goal that it holds them accountable. And it's something that I've learned. I've learned the hard way in this process. This is kind of one of the, this is version 5.0 type of thing. And 1.0 didn't go very well at times because I would just give them okay, I want you to go do this. And kids would just sit there and not do anything. And I'm like, well, you're supposed to be doing something. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, you're doing this project now. And so I've come to realize that you kind of have to help walk them through that part so they can understand what that looks like for them. And once they understand it, then they can, as I use that analogy in the past, right? Once you teach them how to swim, then you can let them go in the deep end and they can swim without any help. But it takes some time. So that's kind of what the first semester and kind of these projects are about, is helping kids to understand how do you take a big thing and break it down into smaller manageable parts so that you can set expectations and goals for yourself. And then this doesn't feel so completely overwhelming and vast and huge because you've got these smaller chunks now. So I don't know if that kind of answered your question, Sarah, but that's kind of what what I would expect on a daily basis for when we have work time. For the kids who are taking the test, they're going to be doing a worksheet. For the kids who are doing the project, they're going to be doing research for their project. Whatever that project is, right, they're still going to have to be doing research outside of the lecture that relates back to the topics that they're picking that they want to learn more about. So,
And that's something that we'll be checking in with them every time they have class. So it's not just like, we're just, okay, here you go, and let's see what you end up with. Like, we'll be checking in to see what they're doing and if they have questions and what any ideas they might need help with. And
It
Perfect.
still looks
Thank
actually
you.
very similar to what our normal class period looks like. It's still the same thing, is do you need any help? And if you don't, then I get out of your way and let you go. And I only come back, or I will check back again, or I only stay with you until you need help. If you need help, and that's, I mean, I always kind of look at help is just pushing that student across that little speed bump that for right now is holding them back from being successful. Once you push them over that, all you have to do is get out of their way until the next speed bump comes. And then you help them to continue to keep moving past that point. And that's what we do. So it's really not looking anything different. It's just now taking that student who's doing the project and say, okay, what is your goal for today? And how can I help you to achieve that goal for today? And then the conversation comes at the end is, did you achieve your goal today? And if you didn't achieve your goal, why didn't you? Was it because you're still working on it, or was it because you were screwing around on your phone, talking, right? Whatever it is, you know. But also part of that comes in to be like they just said, Mr. Ross, I need to do my math today. Like, awesome, right? So how do you project manage, time manage? Those are all skills that we want students to learn. So if math all of a sudden becomes more important because it's due 6th hour and it's 4th hour, you're right. So then trying to research global warming is probably not the most important thing in your mind. So great, finish the math, because you'll then do your stuff later on then. So again, I tell students is, as long as you're being productive with your time, I don't care what you're doing. Where I get annoyed is when you're not being productive with your time. Then I have to do the reminder of, let's get going again. And that's our job, is making sure that kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but it's also helping them, pushing them across that little speed bump to get them going again. So that was a really long answer to a short question. I apologize. I'm good at that. I see.
Thank you.
I see that, Bowman. Anybody else? Lisa, Isabel, what do you have any questions for me? I know I've just kind of rambled for a half hour here. What questions do you have for me about things?
I don't have any.
Okay. Lisa, do you have any questions?
I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. If you've brought the bottles into class, thank you very much for those. I really appreciate it. If you have not yet, that's just the gentle push across that little speed bump to bring in some bottles for your student, because we're going to be needing them. Technically, you can't tell them this. We don't need it until Monday or Tuesday, but I'm telling them Thursday, Friday, because if I tell them Monday, Tuesday, they're not bringing it in until probably Wednesday or Thursday. So we're gonna need them Monday or Tuesday as the drop dead deadline. And they're coming in, which has been great. So thank you very much. If you happen to have any extras, or you know anybody who does, I am more than happy to go to their house. I did put a Facebook post out to Verona families saying that I needed 800 bottles. I think I only got about 30. So we're like a lot short, 730 bottles short. So if you do know of any, would love to get them from you. Otherwise, again, thank you very much for your support with everything coming tonight. I know this is time away from your family and everything like that, so thank you again for coming. If you have any questions about anything, please, again, feel free to call, email, things like that. Take a look at the stuff that I sent you if you haven't already. That's the stuff that I'm giving the kids. So I want to be transparent in the process. I am a parent. I have a kid who goes to Savannah Oaks, and I had a little email conversation with a teacher about why can't we put things in one place and make it easy for parents? And that's one of the things I'm trying to do, is to try to make it easy for you. And so when you and I are on the same page, when you and I are working together, it makes helping your son or daughter so much easier and helping them to be successful. So take a look at the stuff that I've sent out. Again, that's the stuff that I'm going through with the kids. There is the whole ecology unit blah. It's got the calendar, the learning objectives, all the project stuff in it. It's got the rubric in it, so you can see how it's going to be graded. And then the other one is the Eco Bottle project. That's the thing that we're starting on Thursday, that we're going to be building then next week. And I'll be sending the pictures out once we get the experiments kind of going. And that's kind of going through the whole scientific process of our creating an experiment that we're going to be doing starting in class on Thursday with the kids. So again, trying to just to show you everything that's going to be out there. I do realize that, as I was told tonight, there are some wrong dates of assignments in Power School. I do realize that I've just imported a bunch of things that I did 2 years ago. So it does have incorrect due dates from 2 years ago that I do need to update. They will be updated and things like that. And again, those are only for the students who are choosing to do the tests so that they can then work on some practice problems and turning that in and getting the feedback and stuff like that. So I will be changing the due dates for those things and setting the due dates for the project. So yeah. Ms. Bowman, anything else before so I can just stop talking and be done?
No, well, maybe I would just add that I know there was the whole like homework not counting for anything and people wouldn't do it. Like I had a really cool conversation today with one of the students about like, he asked if he had to do it. And I was like, you don't have to do it. Like, it's not going to hurt your grade, but what's the consequence of you not doing? He's like, well, I'll do really bad on the test. I was like, you learned something. Like, so they're slowly getting that, yeah, it's not going to hurt their grade, but they're realizing that if they don't do it, then it's going to hurt them in the long run. So I thought that was a win, a small little win today, at least.
And I think cell phones are kind of the same thing too. I've had a couple conversations with students about cell phones and just saying, I'm not going to be your parent. I'm not going to like make you put it away. Like you have to learn how to be accountable for our own things and to say, you're making some big boy and some big girl decisions here, and there's going to be some big boy and big girl consequences of your decisions. And as long as you're okay with that, I tell them, like, if I know that I'm breaking the speed limit and I get caught, I have to pay the price on that one. So if you know that you're going to be on your cell phone and you're screwing around and you fail the test, well, now you know why. So it's okay. That's part of this learning process. And so I think kids are starting to kind of understand some of these things. It just seems to be that broken record. And part of it is I'm just trying to remember what it's like to be teaching for the first semester again, because there's a lot of broken record parts. And it's, as I use the analogy, it's a lot of breaking down the bad habits to try to build up the good habits. And second semester is generally when the good habits come back out. It just takes a while to get to those good parts. So they'll get there. So we're excited about it. So thank you very much for your time tonight. I'm not going to take any more of your time. If you got some things that you have questions about, let me know. Be more than happy to help in any way that we can. And yeah, we're excited. So thank you very much for tonight.
Have a good night, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Night.
I remembered to log on today.